Hello there, and welcome to another episode of the TED in Your Head podcast. I'm your host, Ted Moreno. I'm a certified clinical hypnotherapist, and in this podcast and in my work, I help people to free themselves from those associations at the subconscious level that would hold them back from health, happiness, and success. We know what those things are: low self esteem, low self worth, bad habits, limiting beliefs. Once we recognize these things and decide to get rid of them and take in new associations, now we've begun a powerful and personal path to transformation. So that's what I'm all about. And if that's something you're interested in, of course, I'll tell you how to get in touch with me at the end of today's episode. And today's episode is a special episode because it is my 500th episode of the TED in Your Head podcast. So I am very appreciative of you for tuning in. So today's episode is about how I found my path. And I know you think that this episode is going to be all about me, and in a way it is. It's kind of my story, but there's a greater lesson here to be learned. And the inspiration for this particular episode was I sent an email last week to my list. So I send a weekly email to people on my list. And by the way, if you want to be on my list, you can sign up at tedmoreno.com and just enter your email into the little box. And in return, I'll send you a downloadable relaxation MP3, which is very nice. It's studio produced. So I sent this email to my list. And in the email, I talked about how my life changed the day I enrolled in the Hypnosis Motivation Institute, where I received my training and where I am a senior staff instructor. Now, it seems that a lot of people related to my very brief story about how I started my career as a hypnotherapist because I think there's a lot of people out there who are looking for their own meaningful path. I've had clients close to retirement who say to me, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up. So, in my view, I think more and more people are getting tired of just going to work to get the paycheck. Now, some of us don't have a choice, and for many years, I didn't have a choice. But it seems to me more and more people are looking for something meaningful to do other than just clocking in 9 to 5 for a paycheck. And certainly there's nothing wrong with that. But my story seems to resonate a lot with people. And whenever I tell my story, people respond. So I want to give you my story in this podcast episode, and you can tell me what you think. First of all, let me say that I'm lucky. I found my path, and although nothing is ever perfect, it's certainly a lot better than I thought it could be. So today, I want to tell you the story of how I found my path in the hope that it might inspire you to keep looking for yours. So I was born in Los Angeles. Grew up in East Los Angeles. My mom was a stay-home mom. My dad owned a couple of businesses, and he was always working. So I always saw my dad working. Money always seemed to be tight. My mom and dad argued a lot. So from that kind of family of origin stuff, I kind of didn't really think very highly of starting a business. I really didn't see a lot of value in buying a house or starting a family. It looked like a lot of stressful work, and it didn't look very much fun, by my view, watching my mom and my dad. So I didn't really have an idea of what I wanted to do when I grew up. So I graduated from high school and I went to college here in the LA area, and I majored in music because it was the only thing that I had any interest in. Now, I had played guitar, but I had no formal musical instruction. I didn't know how to read music. And one thing I lacked was discipline. So I did major in music for 2 years at the Immaculate Heart College, which is in the in the hills, the Hollywood Hills. It closed down the last time I was there after 64 years, and it was quite a wonderful time there. But it became clear to me that majoring in music was going to be a real struggle for me. And I really wanted to get out of Los Angeles. So in 1980, it was actually 1980, I moved to Tucson, Arizona, and I enrolled in the University of Arizona. I tried to continue to do a music major thing, but it took me a while to realize that wasn't going to happen for me. Got to the point where I found myself broke. I needed to get a job, so I dropped out of college and started working. At this point, I was just tired of being broke all the time, and I needed to find some money to support myself. I had a series of jobs, but none that I would ever consider a career. So I just kept going from job to job, trying this, trying that, until in 1990, I met a woman, fell in love, and shortly after that, watched my relationship fall apart in a most devastating way. Now, I was so distraught at the time that I put myself in therapy, saw a psychotherapist, and I joined some groups to help me deal with what I was feeling. And although we weren't together for very long, this woman and I would say 3 months, I was really brought to my knees and I was left wondering, what's wrong with me? And I started to take a good long look at myself. I realized my self-esteem wasn't where it needed to be. I saw that I used relationships like a drug to cover up my low self-worth. And I kind of always needed to be in a relationship was what I realized at that time. I also realized that I had no goals. I had no vision. I had no real ambition. And this distressed me because I didn't want to be like that. So, what at the time was one of the most difficult periods of my life truly turned out to be a gift because this pain and dissatisfaction that I was feeling compelled me to start working on myself. I started reading books, I started doing affirmations, attending seminars, and I started to take a deep interest in my own personal self development. In 2000, I made the difficult decision to move back to Los Angeles. And the reason that I say that it was difficult is because I loved the Sonoran Desert, which is where Tucson is located, and the beautiful sunsets. And I loved hiking out in the desert. And I just was introduced to a whole connection with nature and the natural world that I had never had before, and that informed me in a very spiritual way. So, and I had decided that I was never going to move back to Los Angeles, but in 2000, I did because my parents were getting older. I missed my brothers and sisters, and I felt that I really needed to be closer to my extended family of aunts and uncles and cousins in Los Angeles. Fortunately, when I moved back, a friend of mine from high school offered me a job as an admin assistant in the organization that he was working for. And I'm very grateful to that person for allowing me to move back and have a job. But again, it was just another way to have a paycheck, just another job that I knew I wasn't going to stick with, and I wanted more. Not more money necessarily. So I want to make that very clear. I was never motivated by well, at this point, I wasn't really motivated by money. I just wanted something meaningful. I really needed to do something that mattered. My biggest fear was getting stuck in a job that I wasn't happy with and then reaching the point where I couldn't leave my job because my lifestyle depended on it. And I kind of saw my parents in that situation. And that was something that was very, very scary to me, being trapped in a job that I couldn't leave, that I didn't like. I mean, these are first world problems, right? So in my parents' generation, you were just lucky to have work, and liking it wasn't a consideration. But I think today we have a greater ability to do something, that's important to us. Um, and at the time, it was a consideration for me, needing to do something that mattered, and it was not something that I could seem to ignore. So I kept holding out until I could find something that felt right for me, my own path. By 2003, I was getting desperate. I was engaged to be married, but I was very unhappy with my job. I didn't know what I was going to do, and I really was starting to feel like nothing was ever going to happen to me. And there was that terrible sense of desperation, like, what is wrong with me? Then fate intervened. My coworkers and I were sent off site to attend a one-day seminar. I think it was called How to Be a Better Communicator. The woman facilitating the seminar mentioned that she was a hypnotherapist. So during the break, I went and spoke with her, and she told me that she had received her training at the Hypnosis Motivation Institute and that I should go there and check it out. Now, here is something ironic. I had heard of HMI. I had seen the ads in the paper, and I thought it was interesting. But in my mind, Tarzana, which was about 50 miles from where I lived at the time, was too far for me to drive. But because this person suggested I check it out, I did drive there. I did check it out. And I saw the opportunity for me to do something that mattered. I knew that this was something I could do, and I enrolled and started my training. Now, here's one of the most important things I want to share about you with this story. I didn't have a plan B. This wasn't something that I could afford to just try. I had to make it work. I had considered becoming a licensed psychotherapist, but I couldn't go back to school for 3, 4, 5 more years. I mean, I didn't even have a bachelor's degree, much less a master's. So there was no other choices for me. I was 43 years old. I was so desperate and so ready to make something happen that I made a commitment to finish the program and start a career as a hypnotherapist in private practice. There was really no other option for me at the time, and I knew that. So the very first thing I did is I went to that hypnotherapist that I met at the seminar, and I started some hypnotherapy sessions to give me the determination, the persistence, and the belief that I could pull this off. I had a nasty habit of starting things that I didn't finish, and I could not afford to invest a bunch of money into this program and not see it through. So I started seeing this hypnotherapist, and one of the suggestions that she gave me while I was in hypnosis back in 2003 was that perhaps someday I would actually teach there at HMI. And I remember in my mind at the time dismissing that entirely. It simply was not in my frame of reference. I was just looking to make some money as a hypnotherapist. And now I've been a senior instructor at HMI. I think it's been about 10 years now. Go figure. So today, in closing, I want to say that the purpose of this podcast is not to toot my own horn. I've been lucky. I'm not the smartest person. I'm not the dumbest either. I'm not the most ambitious. I'm a kid from East Los Angeles, and if given my druthers, I would be reading books all day, playing guitar, and sitting around staring at the sky. That's generally my nature, right? I'm not a highly motivated person, but I have been lucky. I found my path, a path that I could commit to, a path that, as Carlos Castaneda says, a path with a heart. And I was able to find the gumption and the determination to make it happen. And it's so fulfilling to have people tell me, Ted, you've changed my life. And I always reply, no, you did it. I just showed you the way. I just pointed you in the right direction. And it's so gratifying to sit in front of a client and give them my full attention and listening and see that they trust me to tell me their deepest fears along with their greatest desires. So I have deep gratitude that I've found this path. It's a path with a heart, and it's very fulfilling and gratifying to be able to do this work. There was a time when I was a much younger man in my 20s when what drove me was wanting to make a ton of money. And you know what? That never worked for me. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But when I decided that I wanted to be of service, that's when things started happening for me. So if you're looking for your path, don't give up. Keep looking, keep exploring. Some paths will have dead ends. You'll walk away from other paths with only lessons that you got from failures, but that's okay. If you're listening to this, then I'm assuming that you're kind of like me, that you want to make a difference, that you seek to serve. And I can tell you with a fair amount of certainty that within you lies a contribution that only you can make. And whatever that contribution is, the world needs it more badly than ever. So keep knocking on the door, keep asking, keep seeking with hope and faith that you'll find what you're looking for. It's hard, it's frustrating to not know what your next step is. Uncertainty is scary. There's a lot of people that just quit their jobs because they've come to the point where they say, I just can't do this anymore. But what do I do now? Keep looking, have faith, and if I can be of any help, I'll tell you how to get in touch with me. But before that, I want to leave you with one of my favorite quotes from a man named William Hutchison Murray, who was a Scottish mountaineer and rider. And this is really an awesome quote. So I'm going to say it really slowly so that you get it. Quote, until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. That the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance, which no man could have dreamed would have come his way. Whatever you can do, or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now. End quote. Now that's a long quote. Remember, you can go to tedmoreno.com/blog and read this podcast as a blog post. You can watch it at YouTube at the @ Ted A. Moreno, or you can search on YouTube for Ted A. Moreno, Certified Hypnotherapist, and find my YouTube page. And of course, if you want to talk, go to tedmoreno.com/contact. We'll set up a time to talk about what's going on in your life. And if you're ready, we can schedule some hypnotherapy sessions and begin to make it better. So, again, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for listening. Take good care of yourself. Bye.